Hello and welcome to Aspen Affairs, the show where we dive into the issues shaping our community and provide a platform for dialogue with local leaders. I'm Debbie Braun, president of the Aspen Chamber, and today we're focusing on the upcoming mayoral election. Joining me today are two incredible individuals who've stepped up to lead our community. Rachel Richards, an experienced public servant, and Katy Frisch, a first-time candidate bringing fresh perspectives to Aspen's challenges. Before we begin, I want to remind our viewers that the Aspen mayoral election is scheduled for March 4th. Early voting begins on February 19th, and ballots will be mailed to registered voters starting February 12th. Your participation in this election is really crucial for our future of the community. Our format today will be a dynamic discussion where we're going to alternate questions between our two guests, giving each of them an opportunity to share their vision for Aspen. Let's get started. Hello, Katy. Hello, Rachel.
Hi, Debbie.
Hey, Debbie. Good to see you.
You too. Thanks you both for joining today. I just want to get started with, motivation for running. So, Rachel, you've served Aspen in a variety of capacities over the years. What drives you to seek the position for mayor?
Well, thank you so much, Debbie, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting this event. I felt that I've had a lot of very rewarding and challenging experiences during the 30 years I've held office, whether as a commissioner or on city council. And I take a lot of delight in seeing the projects that have come to fruition. Things like Burlingame Village affordable housing, which took 2 different public votes that we had to work through for both annexation and later approval of the plan. And to see the families who are living there and working within the community and their kids enjoying the school system means a lot to me. I take a lot of pride in creating the open space tax, the half penny that saved Francis Whitaker Park. It was used to be Bass Park. And we used that to help buy Wilkinson's property at the top of Smuggler Mountain with the county, a 50-50 share from the city, and to preserve Sky Mountain Park between Basalt and Uttermilk. And the other, Basalt and Buttermilk, I'm nervous, I'm sorry, between Brush Creek and Owl Creek, which the city participated. And then items that are coming up towards us, which really concern me, are how will the lumberyard be managed? Will it be managed for year-round locals, or will it be managed and designed for J1 and temporary workers? How will we deal with the Forest Service and Forest Service budget funding for mitigation and fire issues in the new administration? How will we choose a new city manager, since that issue seems to be coming up? And to have the experience that I have bringing it to the table, I think, will be very important. Aspen's my home. It's the town I love. I've been here forever, and it seems like, my adult years at any rate, and I want to contribute further. Thank you.
Thanks. Katy, as someone who's new to running for mayor, what inspired you to enter the race, and what do you hope to achieve?
Great question. First of all, thank you for having us. Thanks to ACRA, the Chamber, it's great, and GrassRoots TV. So while I'm new to the mayoral race, I did serve on the Aspen School District Board of Education for 4 years. And in that 4 years, we made a significant amount of impact to the school system. I like to joke that it was actually more like 12 years because it was during COVID. So it felt like a long time. And I found that, between raising the academic bar and executing a strategic plan, hiring a new superintendent, that it was a fantastic experience, as painful, just like Rachel said, as it was at some points in time. It really made an impact on our community and our children and our families. And so I'm looking to continue this elected community service, because I really view it as community service that happens to be elected. And our family has shown a lot of support of participating in community service over the years. My husband was on city council for 8 years. I kind of had a front row seat to it, literally every night at the dinner table, and much to my kids' chagrin, might I add. It's part of who we are. And coming off of a 3-year congressional run for my husband, where we were talking about issues throughout western and southern Colorado, now I find myself in a what's next situation, and I think I can make a big impact on the city. I come from a business and executive background. I've been running a manufacturing company for 20 years. So I have the ability to execute processes, and I understand the financials, and I want to make a difference and help and be a part of our community in a bigger way. Been here for 20 years, and the best days are ahead of us. I'd like to help make that happen.
Great, thank you. ACRA just sent out a policy survey to all of our members, and we got about 210 responses, and no surprise, really the number one issue on businesses' minds is affordable housing.
Yep.
So, Katy, affordable housing remains a critical issue in Aspen. What strategies would you propose to ensure sustainable housing solutions for our workforce and families?
Great question, thank you. On the school board, I spent a significant amount of time dealing with this. We were able to put forth a bond and spent $50 million on housing, doubled the amount of housing we had in the school district. So very, very committed to that and understand the different parameters and the different players. Mm-hmm. In my mind, it is a combination of public and private employer solutions. Yeah. I don't think there is one solution to the problem. APSHA's doing a great job. There's a lot of units there, but places like the school district and the hospital and Aspen Skiing Company all need to contribute to this. Now, unfortunately, sometimes the smaller employers are the ones who are left with the burden of not being able to afford to buy their own housing. But I'd like to see a situation where these different groups come together to help figure out what's the best balance, enable them to be able to recruit people into town when needed for positions, as well as make sure that our current population is served. So I don't think there's one solution. I think it's going to be a combination of a lot of different efforts.
Definitely. And Rachel, you've worked on housing policy before, quite a bit actually. Mm-hmm. How would you expand on your previous efforts to address Aspen's housing crisis if you were elected mayor?
Thank you, Debbie. I can certainly agree with a lot of what Katy has said. And in the mailer I've recently sent out, I've called for a housing summit that we involve the Pitkin County commissioners, nonprofits, and the private sector to really prioritize our existing issues. There are many. Some are kind of a little more in the background than others, but I think that we need to get everyone working together. And I worked with Kelly McNichols Curry, contributed to the campaign to pass the county's funding for affordable housing. Right. In the past, they really only had mitigation dollars from new growth, which didn't help us catch up. And now they have some opportunities to move things forward. So I think that really convening all the partners and getting in the same room and discussing what we need to do most and prioritizing. I think we need to work more regionally than we have, than the city has. And frankly, I think that people don't understand the magnitude of the problem that's going to be coming at us. Most of our workforce has come from the free market in the Down Valley communities, and those people are rightfully earning their retirement and are retiring in those homes, and when those sell, they will not be sold at a price category to have replacement workers for those same sort of jobs. So that's becoming a real issue. I see the lumberyard as a great opportunity for us because it is large enough that we can have housing for long-term rentals for community workforce that we're currently losing that need affordable rentals, and yet have enough units that can be for recruitment, for employers, for specialized jobs who you can't get in right now because they don't have the 4-year work history that APSHA requires when rental units come up. So I think there's projects like the Phillips Curve that the county needs to finish off. We'd like to move that and bring more units online. And I think it's important that when we talk about creating housing, we're building new units and not just buying units and evicting existing workers, as kind of was more of what the school district did.
Do you have any response?
I'll
let you have a 1-minute rebuttal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've heard that criticism of what the school district was doing, and I couldn't disagree more. I mean, we were faced with almost 20% of our workforce was leaving the workforce nationally in the teaching profession. So we were in a position where we had to increase housing in order to recruit people, or our kids wouldn't be educated. So, you can't do a greenfield project in 2 years, and you need teachers. So there really wasn't, another solution to that. I think that I prioritize the children as a school board member, and that was really the most important thing to us at that time. So.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the environment, because that was another really big thing that came up in the advocacy survey that, not that I was surprised by because we have the destination management plan, but many of the businesses really are looking for ways to be more environmentally friendly and sustainable. So Rachel, you've been a longtime leader in the environmental initiatives. What specific policies or projects would you champion as mayor to further our sustainability goals as a community?
Thank you, Debbie. The thing I've noticed with all our issues that they're interconnected.
Yeah.
And so the closer our housing is, such as the lumberyard to Aspen, the less greenhouse gas emissions we have, because we have a better opportunity to get people on transit and the transit system that's already there and improve that further. I think that we need to really be more proactive with how we deal with our other communities in terms of climate change and greenhouse gas emissions. We clearly face drought on the Colorado Plateau as a whole. We see nice snow out here now, but a lot of it evaporates and doesn't really hit the rivers. We have wildfire danger that's very serious, and I think the Pickens County Emergency Management Plan has rated a wildfire in the ranking of all emergencies we may face as highly likely. And I think that the safe evacuation of our community members in case of natural disasters or in really terrorism type of events or scary events like we saw with the school shooter, I think that having a safe environment is all those things. We're trying to make recycling easier. The city has done, and I'd like to congratulate city staff for their composting efforts. I compost at home. Their efforts even to drop off plastic bags at City Hall and go further with things like that. But paying attention to our public lands, I think, is going to be the most important element going forward. And I would begin to see the city participating in person with regional groups like the Club 20 and others. But the potential to see our public lands sold off and privatized, there's lawsuits already in the works from Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, these places, transfer the public lands to the states, and the states don't have the money to manage them well or do wildfire mitigation. We would see those lands sold off and privatized. And I think standing up and having a voice, bringing Aspen's voice to that in leadership in other groups is going to be very important.
Okay, thank you. Katy, how would you balance environmental stewardship with the needs of a growing community?
Yeah, oh, that's a great question. I mean, Aspen has been a leader in environmental stewardship for many, many decades, and I'm highly supportive of seeing that continue. But when you're talking about how to do that in support of the business community, in particular, which is what we're talking about with Acker here, is as a business owner, as somebody who has run a business for 20 years, I understand the limitations about what you can and can't do and what's practical versus what a government entity is trying to make you do or impose upon you. So it's working with the businesses and understanding how they operate and what they want to see as well. Helping balance the goals of the community environmental goals with the realistic goals for the business community and not impose things on them that are not realistic to achieve.
Yeah.
So it's a conversation. It's not us versus them. It shouldn't be government imposition.
No, and I do appreciate that Aspen, at least from my perspective, that our businesses and our government do work fairly well together. There's definitely some tension, as there should be, but I think on the whole, everyone does have that, let's look out for our environment, let's look out for our businesses. So I do appreciate that. Katy, Aspen's economy relies heavily on tourism. And I know this because I have a front seat every day to it. What would you do to diversify the local economy to create opportunities beyond tourism? Because it's really scary to be like a one-trick pony with everything relying on tourism. And after COVID, we definitely saw some effects of what happened to our community.
No, it's absolutely true, and I think every resort community in the world faces the same issue of how, who are we? Are we a resort community? Do we rely on tourism, or do we have other stuff? There have been some interesting things that have been done in the past. The uphill economy. And some of that work is continuing now. I know Colorado Mountain College is doing some stuff related to that. And, I think that we should be open to ideas. The beautiful thing about Aspen is it is actually more than just a resort community. People have all sorts of interesting jobs and interesting expertise. You know, when you go out and talk to people, it's not just a bunch of people who work only for the skiing company or only for hotels. There's people in architecture and medical fields, and you know, we have a lot of other things that we could potentially increase. Our medical tourism, for example. You know, we're very blessed to have a wonderful hospital and the Stedman Clinic and Valley View, and increasing, people come here because our doctors are so good at orthopedics. And so things like that, things like the uphill economy, I think that there's the ability to listen to what people are trying to do. I mean, I look at some of the small businesses like Strafe, for example, or Obermeyer. There's been a lot of entrepreneurship over the years. So we need to encourage that and figure out ways that we can help them. That's part of the business community, and it's part of the government's job to make sure that the business community thrives and encourages entrepreneurship as well.
I agree. Thank you. Rachel, given our reliance on tourism, what steps would you take to ensure economic resilience in the face of global uncertainties?
Oh, boy. Wicked global now. Thank you very much. I think that part of our economic diversity, which is a reliance factor, or a resilience factor, is about giving opportunities for our young people to be able to stay. And so that we can have a successor generation and multiple generations of Aspenites who grew up here and bring the talents and the education they received through the school district, through CMC, through further universities, back to our community. And so a lot of that relates clearly back to diversity. I think it's very important that we continue to support our legacy events and that we support things like food and wine. I understand the city's looking at parking fees and kind of rolled them out a little unexpectedly, and we should not try to pay for Peter by robbing Paul.
Right.
And so I think that continuing to work with our legacy events is very important. I think there could be a little more diversity with the arts, and I would like to work with the Wheeler Board and others very specifically on the arts and cultural funding we have through what used to be called the Wheeler Real Estate Transfer Tax, so that we might be able to look at a larger grant, capital grant type of program on a limited basis, on a kind of a one-time basis for each individual entity, but help our arts community diversify their schedules into more of a year-round opportunity. You know, with climate change, with the threats to snowpack, those are the types of things that really make economic diversity a challenge for all of us. Mm-hmm. I also think we need to work on making sure this is a very safe community going forward. We're seeing levels of political violence that are unacceptable, and we don't like to think about it because we love walking down the mall and it's a beautiful day, but we've become a target in some ways because of the very wealth and the concentration of wealth and those who live here. And I think public safety is going to be important to a long time interest in people wanting to be here.
Yeah. Rachel, you've been a part of the Aspen government for years. I think, did you say 40 earlier?
30.
30? I was like, did
Please,
you
I'm not
out
that
yourself there? You've been a part of the government for years. How would you ensure that all the voices in the community are heard in the decision-making process?
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think that there's some things that the city used to do that it has not been doing I'd like to bring back. One of those is we used to have neighborhood meetings, find a citizen willing to host in their house and bring the refreshments and invite their neighbors for a given area. And I think we had about 7 different aspects or opportunities within town. Doing everything online is, you don't get the real hardcore back and forth and conversation and a chance to get to the meat of what's really a concern. So that's something I'd really like to bring back in terms of community engagement. I was very disappointed that throughout the past 2 years working on the entrance to Aspen and the 3-lane bridge advocates, city staff did not reach out to the people who live next to the Castle Creek Bridge. And I literally went out and put a flyer on the doors before the August meeting to say this meeting coming up is when council is going to try to determine if they want to permanently relocate Highway 82 here in front of school district housing, and that whole Hickory House corner to the bridge aspect. I went out personally to do do that. And in talking to Peace Rice once, I said, you know, hey, when we were trying to reintroduce the entrance to Aspen, we had meetings at the Limelight. We had community engagement left and right. And it literally said to talk to the people in the villas. But he told me he was told not to do any outreach on that very critical community issue. Engagement, hearing the facts, expanding and sharing the facts are what's really important. But at the end of the day, a council has to make decisions, and they're tough. And you need to look at the bigger picture. It's challenging for all of the people in Aspen to try to reach the school safely with our current highway situation. It's challenging for them to get to the hospital currently when the traffic's backed up to the Hotel Jerome on a daily basis. And we have to talk about the choices we have. How do we control single occupant vehicle cars? How much are we willing to do and change perhaps our behaviors and support transit in order to have that less congestion in the downtown? Those are tough conversations that we need to have, and that's what I'd like to bring back to the community.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
Katy, as a fresh voice in you know the politics here with the city, how would you engage with the residents to bring new perspectives into the city planning process?
I think it's critical. I mean, I would agree with Rachel that I don't think the city has historically been as good as it needs to be in not just soliciting input, but listening to it as well. So I think that the idea of community meetings is really, really important, but they also need to have enough time for people to know that they're happening and explaining it. We've done a pretty bad job of communication, and unfortunately you need to kind of beat people over the head because they have lives. They have things that are going on. They have kids or jobs that they're getting to, or 2 or 3 jobs that they're getting to, and people don't have a lot of time to read the paper and to get engaged. If you're not proactively going out and talking to them. So I think that there's a lot of HOA meetings that could happen. There are a lot of other community organizations. Find the people where they are. Don't try to get them to come to you. And I don't just mean their neighborhood. I mean, go out and put a booth up at the Arc. So people that are going up and talk to these people while they're waiting for their kids' hockey practice. Things like that. Find the people where they are and get the input and listen to it. And by the way, the community isn't just the people who live here full-time in the core or in affordable housing in the core. It is the second homeowners. It's people up and down this valley who are part of our community, and we need to treat them as such. And so making sure that we're soliciting input, not just from other governmental agencies, which is really all we tend to do, but also from the individuals who live, work, play here, visit here. Everybody.
I agree with that very much. I think that's been a shortfall I've been seeing lately. Thank you.
Yeah. I am curious about culture. I work really hard at ACRA to have a very good culture with the organization, with our board, with our members, along with our staff. And it's a full-time job, really, to make sure that the culture of the organization is of highest performance. So when I look at the mayor's seat, you're going to be in charge of like the culture of the city of Aspen. Do you have any plans, or how do you think the current culture is, and what would you like to see change over the years? And I'm asking you both that same question. So, Rachel, I'll kick it to you first.
Yeah, I think the sense of belonging is very important, that we want you here and you belong here, and we appreciate the work that you provide as a community. Katy's absolutely right. To survey only Aspen voters on the entrance to Aspen and leave all the people up in Mountain Valley and Red Mountain and at the Airport Business Center off was a huge failure. Their opinions count, and I think the culture of our community, when 70% of our workforce comes from the other side of the Castle Creek Bridge, and many of them from not within Pickens County, it's about how frustrated are they when they start the day? How much is the fact that they're losing 2 or 3 hours a day or commuting before they even start their workday? And so I think that those sort of things are important. I think that the efforts on the Armory have been tremendous, and I think that creating more of a hub of local community activity is important. But that program's going to need a little refining to make sure that it's sustainable over time, that it actually has affordable food, that it works for our community, and the funding for that is unknown right now. So continuing to have fundraising efforts to create those sort of activities, I think, is really important, both for the Chamber's new offices there and the visitor center welcoming. But I would hate to see us have to spend our money on a new bridge, $150 million, that means we won't have the money to spend on the Armory. Any sort of new highway improvements should be paid for by the federal highway and CDOT and our gasoline taxes. But it's appreciation of the people who are here and who make sacrifices to live here, and those in affordable housing, living 700 square feet in a 2-bedroom with 1 bathroom. It's a little hard sometimes finding a way to show that appreciation, which I think the Chamber has done at times and the city has done at times. But we could have more events, and I'd love to see us subsidizing some more of the shows at the Wheeler to a lower amount, so that more of our locals can happen. I'd like to see us doing a reward for our bus riders, so that there's a monthly drawing of people with transit passes and gift certificates to local Aspen restaurants, and bring them in here, support a local business at the same time you're rewarding our workforce. Thank you.
If I could get back to the question, which was about culture within
Well, I think
City
those
Hall,
are culture
right?
for all of our community.
Well, within City Hall, I think that this is the key to leadership, right? That is what you're talking about, Debbie, is exactly what a good leader does, is they help establish the culture and the strategic vision of an organization. And I have 20 years of experience of doing just that in creating a culture within an organization. And it is critical to the functioning of the entire organization at every level. But that isn't to say that the leader should be someone who is involved in the day-to-day of every single employee throughout. The job of a board is to provide strategic vision. Why is that word tough? Strategic vision for an organization. And the goal is to help create that culture, just like you were talking about. Yeah. And I think I have the experience to do that. I think that there's a number of issues that have happened over the years. I don't think the board has always been, the city council has always been in an appropriate place. I think sometimes they dig too deeply into individual issues that should be better left within the staff. I think that there's sometimes been a little bit of a lack of respect there. So I would look toward making sure that we have a positive environment where people are working together for the common goal of the strategic vision of the community. Maybe that needs to be updated. That's another long discussion about the Aspen Area Community Plan. Yeah. But I think leadership is not easy, and I would hope to try to bring that to the city environment.
Great, thank you. We have about 2 minutes left. So before we wrap up, I wanted to give you each a moment to share your closing thoughts on how you envision Aspen's future under your leadership. Katy, I'll start with you.
Aspen's future. Well, first of all, I think the best days are ahead. Okay. So I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to talk to people and talk a little bit, very briefly, about some of these things. Yeah. But I do believe our best days are ahead. And I think when you're in a leadership position, that's the thought that you should bring to the job. I don't know what it looks like. I don't think anybody knows what it looks like. But I think we want to maintain our sense of place and our sense of community. I think that there's a lot of projects we can do to help address some of the angst that's going around our community about where we are as a community culture right now outside of City Hall. And, it takes a lot of listening and a lot of talking to people and a lot of hearing as well. Yeah. I think it would be, there's no perfect solution to everything, to anything, but I would be very honored to have the position to be able to help with that.
Well, I want to say thank you very much for throwing your name in the hat, putting yourself out there and really working on behalf of the betterment of the community. Rachel, what's your vision?
My vision is to look to the future. I respect the past, and I appreciate some of the good old days, and some of those things you might be able to bring back in some ways. But it's really about building on what's possible now. And if I had misconstrued the previous question, I'd like to say I totally respect the city staff. And I think you lead by example and go in with a cheery attitude, but also listening to their professional opinions, because I have seen that disregarded again and again. It took 3 separate letters from the Colorado Department of Transportation and any number of staff comments before the city started thinking about really doing an environmental impact statement, and that was just wrong. But for the town itself, we are competitors, and yet we are unique in our own way, and we must hold on to that. We've never overdeveloped. We've never done the things that we've seen other resorts kind of lose their charm, lose their authenticity, and decline during the recessions. We've never declined the same way other overbuilt resorts have. So managing growth and managing our environment and working with our partners throughout the valley regionally is how we maintain our status and good graces.
Well, I wish you both the best
Thank
of
you.
luck. I know it's been really fun getting out there. Thank you both for your thoughtful responses. It's clear that Aspen's future is in good hands with passionate individuals like the both of you. And I really appreciate your willingness to lead. As you can see, both candidates bring a unique perspective and ideas to the table. Local elections are the cornerstone of our democracy, and your voice matters. Remember, the Aspen mayoral election will take place on March 4th. I'll remind you again, early voting starts on February 19th, and ballots are going to be mailed to registered voters on February 12th. Make sure to vote, stay engaged in shaping the future of our community. Thank you for joining us on Aspen Affairs. I'm Debbie Braun. I look forward to seeing you next time as we continue to explore issues that impact Aspen businesses and residents. Have a great day.